It was the middle of the night and I was driving my car through a poorly lit country road. My wife was sitting in the front seat and my 2 children were in the back. We were driving back home after visiting my in-laws in their country house. We should have left earlier and the children should have been in bed by now, but time just flew by. In fact, I was the only one awake and everyone else was sleeping in their seats. I also started to feel sleepy, so I tried to focus. I could not get distracted. That was a dangerous road with some really sharp turns after all. And to make matters worse, a storm was starting to break out and the wind started to shake the tree branches. I could only think about finally getting home and resting in my bed. I thought about putting some music on or roll down the window to wake myself up, but that would wake up the others, so I tried to just focus on the road. But I couldn't help it. My eyelids felt heavy and my eyes were closing. I thought that nothing bad would happen if I rested my eyes for just an instant. There were barely any other cars on the road and it was unlikely an animal would cross at this hour. My hands were driving automatically, my mind started to get foggy and I entered a semi-conscious state. I have no idea if what happened next was real or a product of my imagination. When I made a turn on the next curve, I could distinguish in the darkness a strange figure by the side of the road. Some sort of animal, but not a normal one. At first I thought it was a skeleton of a horse since I could distinguish a horse's skull in that figure. However, I realized the skull had a long and thin neck coming out of it, like a snake, which seemed to have no end. Suddenly, the creature raised its head and looked directly at me. The shock scared me so much that I lost control of the car, getting off-road and hitting a tree. I then woke up in a shock and realized I was just dreaming. I fully regained consciousness, seeing I was still driving my car and my family was still asleep. Fortunately, the shock kept me awake, but I couldn't stop thinking about the meaning of that vision and of such a strange and creepy creature. Then I heard the voice of my youngest son behind me. He insisted that we left the road and went back to Grandpa and Grandma's house. I told him we couldn't go back since we would be arriving to the city pretty soon, but he kept insisting, saying that we had to go back or something terrible would happen to us, and that a long horse just stole him so. Surprised by such a coincidence with my dream, I asked him where the long horse was and he pointed to one side of the road. And there it was again, with its sinister skull without a jaw and its infinite neck producing chilling crackles. I immediately stepped on the brake, turned the car around, and drove back to my in-laws' house. Through the rearview mirror, I could see how that unnerving creature was looking directly at us. My wife woke up and alarmed to ask me why we were turning back. Covered in a cold sweat, I didn't even know how to respond. And I just said that the weather was terrible and the road was very dangerous right now, so it was best for us to go back and spend the night at her parents' house. She thought that was strange, but when she saw how scared I was, she just complied. The next morning, my youngest son and I were eating breakfast in silence, still in shock by what had happened the night before. On TV, a news story broke out saying that there was an accident in the same road we were driving on. A tree fell due to the bad weather, blocking the way, and a driver who had no time to react crashed with it. Everyone in the car died. My son and I looked at each other, horrified, when we realized how close we were to a certain death. Longhorse is another one of the creatures out of the mind of the artist Trevor Henderson, creator of Siren Head and Cartoon Cat. Its head is a horse skull without a jaw, which is connected to a long and pale neck with some strands of black mane. Longhorse's neck is completely flexible, it's infinitely large and produces crackles when it contorts and moves in every way imaginable. Curiously, it is said that it also exudes a smell of cinnamon and that it enjoys offerings such as apples and small pets. It first appeared in August 24, 2018 when Trevor published an unnerving image of it in his social media accounts. Along with the description, I had that dream again about the horse on the stairs. Shortly after, he uploaded another image, this time in the suburbs of a city, with the following text. Every night, it curved into his dreams, folded into view from around impossible corners. One gaping socket always on him as it silently glided. He thought putting some distance between the thing he'd found in the attic and himself might help, but no, it met him on the road. A third time appeared a later time, an ancient cave painting which suggested that Longhorse could have existed since ancient times, and that despite its creepy appearance, it could be a being who protects humans, who warns them about any danger or disaster that could be getting close to so they can avoid it. Thus, Longhorse has the power to predict the future and can also teleport to whatever it wants. Its infinite neck is capable of bending the laws of physics, defy gravity, and contort to unthinkable extremes. Trevor himself mentioned one time that if you look directly at Longhorse's neck for a while, the neck will wither and fade to dust, but Longhorse will not be affected. This is the only creature created by Trevor Henderson which isn't evil and doesn't try to harm others, which is why many speculate that Siren Head and Longhorse are arch enemies, due to their diametrically opposed ways of looking at humanity. Despite this, we bet most of you wouldn't like to ever encounter this bad omen of a creature, would you?